Hello everyone, I'm Debojit Das and this is Courts Today by LiveLaw, the one place you need to be to know about the most important stories from India's courts every day. So without any further ado, let's get started. As you already know, like always, we start with the Supreme Court that came down hard on a man who allegedly threatened a court-appointed lawyer with a pistol during the execution of a local commission. So here is what happened. The lawyer was appointed by the Delhi High Court to visit the premises of Nitin Bansal, the accused, in a contempt case related to industrial coal. During this commission, she reported that Bansal displayed a pistol on the table in an attempt to intimidate her. When the Delhi High Court initiated contempt proceedings, Bansal claimed it was merely a toy gun, a plea later found to be false. During the Supreme Court hearing on his appeal against a 1-month jail sentence, the bench led by Justice Suryakant expressed outrage, stating Bansal deserved to be in jail for his conduct. The court refused to hear any of his arguments or apology until he first surrenders before jail authorities on November 6th. Next, in a crucial update regarding the Manipur ethnic violence, the National Forensic Science Laboratory today informed the Supreme Court that the audio recordings allegedly implicating former Chief Minister Biren Singh have been tampered with. The National Laboratory's report presented to the bench of Justices Sanjay Kumar and Alok Aradhe concluded that the audio exhibits were not scientifically fit for forensic voice comparison because they showed signs of modification and alteration. Therefore, the lab stated it could offer no opinion on whether the voice matched that of the former Chief Minister, BJP's Biren Singh. Advocate Prashant Bhushan, representing the petitioners, immediately challenged the government's lab findings by pointing to a separate private forensic report by Truth Labs, which had indicated a 93% probability of a voice match. Conversely, Solicitor General Tushar Mehta opposed further judicial intervention, stating that the situation in the state is now peaceful. The court has directed that copies of the official National Laboratory report to be furnished to all parties to file their responses before the next date of hearing that is scheduled for December 8th. Next, staying with the Supreme Court, where the Communist Party of India has escalated its battle against a Madras High Court directive that mandates the removal of all permanent flagpoles belonging to political parties from public lands. The Communist Party of India filed a special leave petition challenging the High Court's sweeping order, arguing that it amounts to impermissible judicial legislation and violates their fundamental rights under Articles 19(1)A and 19(1)C of the Constitution. That is, freedom of speech and association. The Madras High Court had initially passed the order while dealing with a request to erect an AIADMK flagpole, ruling that no law permits permanent flagpoles in public spaces as they often cause inconvenience to commuters and affect traffic. The Supreme Court has now adjourned the matter, noting that it will be heard by a coordinate bench and is already looking into a similar challenge. Moving on to your movie nights, which actually might get cheaper if you're from Karnataka at least, as Karnataka's rule that would cap cinema ticket prices at a flat 200 rupees just landed in the Supreme Court, with the Multiplex Association of India challenging the cap. While the High Court had temporarily stayed the 200 rupee rule, it imposed an interesting interim demand. Multiplexes had to keep detailed auditable records of every ticket sold, including buyer IDs for cash, to ensure potential refunds if the state ultimately won the case. Senior advocate Mukul Rohatgi fiercely argued this demand was unworkable, stressing that tickets are mostly sold online via intermediaries like BookMyShow, making the ID tracking impossible. Interestingly, the court seemed to be inclined towards the consumer's concern. Justice Vikram Nath orally remarked, "You charge 700 rupees for ticket, 100 for water. It should be fixed," suggesting that exorbitant rates were causing the cinema industry's decline. In the end, the Supreme Court stayed the High Court's specific directive to maintain those cumbersome auditable records, but clarified that the main legal challenge to the 200 rupee price cap itself must continue in the High Court. As we move on, the Supreme Court today took up the issue of non-functional air quality monitoring stations across Delhi. In assistance to the court, Advocate Singh informed the court that a significant number of air monitoring stations across the National Capital Region are simply not working. This finding completely undercuts pollution control efforts because if you cannot accurately measure the pollution, you cannot possibly manage it or ensure compliance with environmental regulations. Slamming the authorities for this failure of basic oversight, the Supreme Court has now demanded an urgent comprehensive report from Commission of Air Quality Management on the operational status of every monitoring station. It seems despite the recurring public health crisis, the infrastructure needed to even track the problem is being neglected. Let's move away from the air of Delhi to an astonishing display of failing law and order as the Allahabad High Court delivered a scathing indictment of a state overreach, condemning the case as a glaring example of the policing authorities falling and scrambling over each other in order to score brownie points. The court quashed a false and vexatious FIR lodged under the UP Prohibition of Unlawful Conversion of Religion Act, which stemmed from a husband's attempt to weaponize the law against 5 petitioners after his wife went missing. One petitioner was immediately arrested and jailed. The egregious failure occurred after the wife returned voluntarily, stating that she left due to domestic violence and categorically denied that any religion conversion took place. Despite this, the police deliberately kept the petitioner incarcerated for over a month. The High Court found the FIR to be false and directed the state of Uttar Pradesh to pay the man 50,000 rupees compensation for his illegal detention since September 18th, highlighting a shocking disregard for liberty and truth. Now towards an important update coming in from the Madras High Court. The Election Commission of India told the court that it's launching a special intensive revision or SIR of the electoral rolls. This is not the usual annual summary process. Critically, the ECI stressed that in the SIR, all existing voters are required to submit a new enumeration form to the booth level officers. This update came during a hearing on petitions demanding the removal of deceased, migrated and duplicate names before the 2026 general elections. The ECI explained that this intensive measure is necessary to ensure maximum inclusion of eligible voters and the removal of all ineligible names. This entire process, governed by sections 21 to 24 of the Representation of Peoples Act 1950, aims to publish the final clean voters list by February 7th, 2026. And for our final story of the day, we saw the Delhi High Court issuing a scathing reprimand to the capital's civic agencies for the appalling state of 27 industrial areas where basic infrastructure like sewage lines and storm water drains are non-existent. The core issue is a complete lack of accountability. Multiple agencies, including Delhi Jal Board and Municipal Corporation of Delhi, are refusing to take responsibility for the redevelopment and connection of sewage to treatment plants. The court warned that industries operating there must be contaminating groundwater and the Yamuna River. Slamming the lack of progress despite a cabinet decision over a year ago, the bench of Justices Pratibha Singh and Manmeet Pritam Arora has summoned the Delhi Chief Secretary and 4 other top officials. They have been ordered to hold a meeting and present an immediate action plan or appear in court personally to explain the paralysis in the basic civic duties. And with that, this episode of Courts Today comes to an end, but remember, to access detailed coverage of these stories and more, visit us on www.livelaw.in and follow us on all our socials to stay updated with everything that is law.